Today's episode is sponsored in part by Athletic Greens. I take Athletic Greens literally every day in the morning before I work out, before I hit the tennis court. It makes me feel unstoppable and my body loves it. Very quickly, I noticed once I started taking AG1 that it helped with improved digestion. Look at my hair, look at my skin. I feel fantastic. Why take a bunch of different things when you can mix one scoop of powder in water once a day? AG1 has been part of millions of mornings since 2010. AG1 gives you increased energy and mood support, making it easy to live your best life. If you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/spike911, athleticgreens.com/spike911, and check it out. Let's start the show.
And now, Hangar 56 Media presents Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue. See if you can guess this week's guest based on the song. Did you say Pat Long? Pat Long is here. Johnny Lieberman is here. Zuckerman is on his way to jail again. Hey, Spike. This is really what you listen to when you drive, Pat.
No, I'd be going too quick if I listened to that, but that was definitely what I listened to in elementary school and jumping on the bed.
Welcome to Spike's Car Radio. I hope you're excited to listen to us today in your cars. So always send those pics in of the Spike's Car Radio on the dash. If you're in the workshop, hello to you guys. If you're escaping your mother-in-law and your parents, like
they left.
Johnny,
They left. Yeah.
Welcome to at least 40 minutes of Cars and Coffee downloadable. And Pat Long is here because there's a Luftgekult coming up.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You're a long-time repeat guest. You're our Bill Murray. You're always on this show. And you're here to tell us what's going to happen in San Francisco, right? This big event is happening on what day?
April 29th and 30th. First time we're going to do a double seating, if you will. Last time I saw you guys, you were having a live show at Luft. I didn't get to partake, but I heard from Matt Farah that he needs a little more shade the next time we do the show.
Yes, we had a great time there. But yeah, we were out in the middle of things, and what we learned is we need a small, self-contained area that people can kind of walk into and cozy up to us. But I had a great time. I thought it was a lot of fun.
It was great.
Yeah, but we did get sunburned.
Yeah.
I remember a little girl came up to me and gave me a little flower or sticker and put it on my head. That was really sweet. And our idiot listeners were there and a lot of great cars. And thank you, by the way, for having us there.
Yeah, I was stoked you guys were there. It was a good group. You were in the rowdy section in front of the brewery. I was thinking this is gonna be wild, but no, it's gritty. We like to say sometimes at Luft. It's a blanket statement for I'm sorry, we'll take better care of you next time.
No. Entirely my fault. But let's talk about this year. It's already been a year. It's unbelievable. A year since the last event. At what point after last year's event, or did you already know you were going to be up in San Francisco?
I mean, events for us are always a bit of spontaneous combustion. James Longstaff, who's been on our team since day one, lives up in the Bay Area, and he's always thrown some great ideas around getting to Northern California, and it's been on the to-do list for quite a while. I flew up with minimal expectation, and I walked into this venue, for those of you who live up in the area, Mare Island, and I had driven past it leaving Oakland heading towards Sonoma, and I always looked off and saw this really cool old, Navy looking base and thought there could be something there, but you always wonder, how left for dead is it, and how much would you need to do to pull off a show. And then I walked in and I started blowing up Jeff Swartz's phone on the text message, and I said, this is 100% the best venue that we will ever visit. And he responded, you always say that.
It's a very Zwart answer.
And what was it that you saw that got you excited? Like, what qualifies as a perfect place for an event?
Yeah, we need scale these days. We're thankful for that many people and many cars want to come join. We don't like empty parking lots or golf courses or racetracks. We want backdrop. We want architecture. We want history. And the cool part about this is that they're preserving all of that originality, but they're cleaning it all up. It's properly sealed and lit, and there's great indoor and outdoor space, but diversity. We don't just want one look. When you look back at the images, you want to see a bunch of different textures and layouts, and lay these cars out against all different types of backdrops.
Wow. And then, so what happens after that? You pick this place. Is there a mayor of Mare Island? I mean, how do you secure this place? How big is Mare Island? Like a mile or 200? What is it? I don't know anything about it.
It's full Vallejo City property. I mean, there's a high school on Mare Island.
Oh, there's
is residential.
Oh, wow.
And it I don't know. I should know by now the full history of it, but
I got a phone.
Yeah, it is definitely something that we throw together. I get that feeling in my stomach, and then I start texting the team, and Jeff goes and sees it, and then it's like, we got to do this now, because a lot of times these are like, this area is being developed and it's being leased out to tenants, and there's all different types of industrial tenants, retail tenants. There's a great distillery on property, a brewery, there's car restoration going in, and so it reminds me a little bit of when we did Bicester Heritage in England, and it was an old RAF military base that was then turned into an industrial park for vintage cars. So another super cool spot that we visited and thrown a show up at. But I kid you not only is there a 360-degree water view at Mare Island, but there's a little bit of everything. There's the old officers' houses that are sort of above ground, mini mansions, just wild stuff. But Zuckerman's doing some homework for me.
I'm Lieberman, but that's okay.
Lieberman.
Hey, Pat, I got your homework.
You've got his voice down.
So it's 3.5 miles long, 1 mile wide. So it's a big island. It's a big island.
And what is it? A former military?
Yeah, it looks like an old naval slow base or something.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you got like the shipyards. You've got, a lot of industrial buildings that we're going to throw some cars into. There's a little bit of everything. I don't want to fully overhype it or give it all away, but let's say it's got scale for a good group of cars. We're just sending out our acceptances for all of the Luft 9 cars, the air-cooled cars, which will be on Saturday. And then Sunday, we're going to do a little bit of a different spin and open it up for some later model cars. We're calling it Air Water. We tested this pilot at the Peterson the night before Luft a few years ago, and it really blew up because transaxle is a big part of Porsche's heritage, and you guys have owned and driven many of those cars, but also there's so much going on with 996, 997, all the way up into the brand new GT3 RS, and you start counting Carrera GT. There's lots of stuff that we want to shed some light on.
So
it's a 2-day event now. Is this the first time you've done 2 days?
This is the first time. Some of the feedback that we get from our loyal attendees is, hey, I fly from England for a 5-hour event. What else is going on? Give me more. And always there's pop-up events before Luft, after Luft, during Luft. That's something that's taken an organic life of its own. But we thought, how could we expand this, turn it into a weekend? And this was the perfect venue for it. So we're making it up as we go, but I'm excited to see what kind of cars will show up for that one. There's obviously a big 4-door movement with all of the Cayennes and everything else. So it's not just sports cars this time.
So let me ask you, though, is this devil's advocate? Is this where Luft jumps the shark? You're letting water cooled in Wassergekult.
There is no water cooled allowed at Luft. Luft is Saturday.
Oh no, I'm saying
And
though,
Sunday
people,
is a different spin on things. It's the same production team. It's the same venue, but it's a different cast of characters. And we will have air-cooled cars on Sunday, but there won't be any water-cooled cars on Saturday.
What's the goofball German word for a water cooled?
Wassergekult.
What is it?
Wassergekult.
Wassergekult. So
Yeah.
this is, why wouldn't you call it Wassergekult?
Too predictable. It's too literal. I think that
Thank
this
you,
is,
by the way, for not doing that.
this is something different. I mean,
Air and
Lieberman
water.
already pronounces it better than me, so that's the first problem. But no, I think that this is an answer to quite a few different things. And my overall vision of air water is for it to be its own standing event. It's not just day 2 of Luft. I believe that now when you think about the expansion of the model line after 1998, there's a lot of things we want to do creatively with some of those cars. And yeah, there's plenty of friends that have been knocking on the door for 5 or 6 years that say, when you're willing to do something beyond the 993, call me, because I have some things to say and some cars to bring.
Wow. And how did you, so you see this spot, how do you secure it? Who is there, just a landlord sitting there in an office, or how did that piece work?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to answer that question.
No, that's okay. But I think a lot of us are curious. You know, at least once a week I'm hearing from someone, how do I start a Cars and Coffee? How do I do something like this? You see this island.
Yes.
You see this space, and then what? What's the next step?
It's not easy. The conviction of cars, it's a little bit of a tango, if you will, of trying to convince a landlord who's trying to lease out his property that we want to bring hundreds and hundreds of cars and thousands of people onto their property. But I think that when we start to talk about the digital reach that Luft brings to our different partners, we see our venues as partners for that year. It makes more sense. And we also have a little bit of a reputation and some testimonials from our prior hosts that say these guys understand, these guys and girls know what they're doing. They know how to produce an event. They know how to clean up after themselves. But it takes some convincing. There's definitely some negotiating around it, and it's not cheap. We pay to play. But in this day and age, it's getting easier for us as we sort of build our deck and explain that we're going to bring millions and millions of impressions to what they might be trying to do, whether that's selling lumber or selling beer at the brewery, or in this case, selling real estate.
Right.
What do you think, Johnny?
I just, it's funny because I lived up in Sonoma County and I lived in San Francisco. So when I hear Vallejo, it's sort of like not the nicest part of the Bay Area, but I mean, I imagine it's going to be a very cool location. I've never been there, but I've been to like Alameda, like all the old naval stuff. And it's, the Bay is an incredible backdrop for anything. So,
and the dates are again?
April 29th and 30th. And to that point, a lot of people have asked, where do we stay? And what do we do? And,
where do you get the drugs and prostitutes?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I can answer that question.
But no, we're 20 minutes from where the Cal Mile is finishing up on the Thursday prior to our show. So South Napa is a 20-minute drive. And if you've got the budget, there's some beautiful properties up there.
But also Sonoma's right there.
Exactly.
The racetrack's right there.
Yes.
And Sonoma's a little cheaper than Napa usually, a little bit better weather. Food's better, wine, not so much. But
and then is weather a consideration up there? Obviously, what's happening here with these.
I think weather's a consideration everywhere. I was just on a call with the Monterey guys and some planning for Rennsport, and they said it's literally run for your life right now. They're getting messages over their phone. So hey, it's been a wild year. We're ready for anything. We run rain or shine.
But it's rain or shine. You just come and it works.
Did you at Pebble on the 18th hole? There was a sinkhole.
Yeah.
On Pebble.
Yeah. It should be dried up by then.
At
least this summer.
Yeah.
But April. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, the Bay Area is better equipped for rain than Los Angeles is. They get it much more than we get it. So, but you'll still have people outside, so that sucks.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I think
but you did a Luft in the rain.
Yeah,
Luft 4. I was there. I was there.
Yeah. England was in the rain all the way through the day.
Oh, that's England.
Yeah, of course. The one day of that summer that rained was the day that we had a show, and it was great. I mean, it makes for beautiful photography. Just wear the right gear. But yeah, we're mainly an outdoor show, but it's a little bit of everything. I mean, as we always debate, these cars don't melt, so you see a separation. I've seen guys drive 550 Spiders. 2 people in the car car and just saddle up and go for it. So it just depends on the owner.
It's definitely like that. You know, it's funny. I was telling Zuckerman the other day, it's like I haven't gone out driving because of the rain, but whenever I'm in Monterey, in the rarest of things, I'll drive it through the mud. I don't seem to care up there. But here, for some reason, it starts to bug me.
Our roads are not built for rain, though. I almost hydroplaned this morning on the fast lane in the 110. It's just, and it was raining hard, but it's we're not
People
equipped
don't
for
understand the rain problems we have.
It's very different down
It's
here.
very different here.
It's very different.
I used to laugh at people getting upset about the rain when I first moved here, and now I kind of understand.
You were moaning about it before the show started.
I was never moaning. I like to play tennis every day if I can at night.
Right.
And when it's rain, this one thing you kind of can't do is play tennis, even though we did last night in the puddles a little bit and had a nice
How are you? I know you drive around Malibu. How are the roads holding up out there?
I've stayed out of the canyons when things are like this. I mean, you usually need a couple days for things to clear up and get the rocks dragged off, but they do a pretty good job. I didn't go out this weekend. I got young kids, so we're doing other things like K1 and soccer and tennis and all those things. But
K1's fantastic. Which K1 are you?
We've been going to K1 in Thousand Oaks. It's a pretty new facility.
Yeah.
I live up in Westlake Village now, so it's easy for us to get to. But yeah, I've been. I think Mac, he takes his kids to Burbank. There's one in Torrance.
Torrance is the one we go to.
They're pushing like 70 facilities across North America, so definitely on the up. They're actually building a new outdoor track.
I saw that.
It's going to be serious.
Yeah, now they're kind of upping the game a little bit. Not these little electric deals, right? You can get a motorized high-speed shifter cart, right?
Yeah, they're going to have full-fledged world championship level races.
Oh, that's
it has
great.
the CIK, full approval for big races like the Supernats that's usually in Las Vegas.
Right.
But indoor karting, I mean, during the week to buzz over there with your kid for just an hour of time is enough to get a couple of sessions in. And the best part is the juniors rotate with the seniors, so dad can get a session in while the kids are kind of catching their breath.
Do you feel pressure being a professional racer that you need to win even at K1?
Yes and no. First of all,
Do you win?
It depends. It depends who's out there. A lot of times I try to keep it low key. Maybe have used an alias once or twice if been hanging out with friends before we get to K1.
Yes.
But no, I actually am.
It's a serious place. They're very serious about racing. But I buddied up to the guys last time I was there, and they said they can control the speed of some karts.
Yeah.
And I was like, how come the birthday boy always wins?
Exactly. No, it's interesting because one thing you'll learn is you're never going to beat the local expert of anything. Yeah. I don't care if that's golf or indoor karting.
Right.
If that's their home track, learn from them, follow their lines, watch which go-karts they get in, because there is a lot of local knowledge, and those guys and girls are fast. So I go there.
But you're the local now. I mean, I know you said it's easy to get to Thousand Oaks from Westlake Village. It's the same city. I was born in Westlake Village, grew up in Thousand Oaks. It's the same
exactly.
town.
Yeah, it is.
So now you're the local.
I keep thinking, what would this have been like at elementary school, like my son? To be able to go after school if the grades are coming in and go bust some laps out. We actually have a racing league. The first Tuesdays of the month, we just did the first time he did his first race, and there was like 19 kids, 2 heats, standing start.
How old is your kid that's
7?
Oh, because my kid just turned 6, and I'm in Burbank, basically.
It's fun. It's really fun, and it's, again, you don't have to schlep the stuff in the back of your trailer, drive out to rural desert areas.
Yeah, tarantulas and scorpions.
And drive and
leave.
An occasional concussion.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
And there's food and bev.
Yeah. What happens is the dopey kid who comes along who doesn't know how to control a car runs into the back of your kid's car.
Sure.
And we've had 2 concussions so far.
Really?
But
wow.
We keep going back.
Spike's been trying to kill his kids for a while.
Today's episode is brought to you by the makers and fixers of Snap-on. The makers and fixers keep the world moving. They're the backbone of the world, whether they're talking about manufacturing, customizing, restoration, performance, or maintenance. I know a lot of makers and fixers, like the ones who worked on that Zagato right back there. John Wilhoit. How about you guys listening? Are you a maker or a fixer? And who are your favorite makers or fixers in your life who work on your cars? The makers and fixers not only built your car, they keep it running and help you make it awesome. Theirs is not just a job, it's a calling, and Snap-on wants to hear from you about them. Share your story. Go to go to makersandfixers.com/spikescarradio. Just go to the website, makersandfixers.com/spikescarradio. Leave your story there. And check out Makers and Fixers, the account on Instagram. Let's talk about racing some more because, we got a race car driver here.
Yeah, he's a race car driver.
I tried to prep for this conversation about Sebring this past weekend, and I read all the news coverage, the IMSA. I can't make heads or tails out of who won what and where and what class was
It hasn't gone live yet, but we were talking about qualifying, not the actual
Yes,
race.
I know that.
Yeah,
I
so we're gonna
realized
get
that
crucified.
after that. Yeah, I know. We don't get crucified. They know we don't know much about racing.
we know
They're
nothing.
fine. But we love it. We're interested.
Sure.
But I was laughing. I mean, Sebring, a very famous race. Steve McQueen raced at 908-2 there, the Flunder Mobile. It's still, if you want to make it accessible, you gotta talk about it in a way that I could understand. It looked like Cadillac won in the class that you and I were betting on.
Yes,
correct?
they did. Yeah, they got first, Porsche second, Cadillac third.
Porsche second, Cadillac third. So two of their three cars retired. Yeah. This accident in the end was a Cadillac car hitting a Porsche car. Is that what that was? Do you know that?
It was a... I'm going to get this wrong. A Honda, an Acura, and a Porsche that were diving into turn 3, going for the win. They came up on GT traffic. Matthew Jaminet was leading in the 963 in the Porsche, and it looked really good for Porsche Penske to win the race. It was the final stint, and he got balked by a bunch of traffic. And here came Philippe Albuquerque in the Wayne Taylor car, and yeah, there's a lot of variables in the opinion of what happened, but the end result was it was bowling for GTP cars, and the top 3 cars were out on the spot. And the 4th place car, Johnny's Cadillac team, just slipped right through and won the race. But it was not without a lot of controversy.
Because you do watch what happened, and you wonder, why didn't he stop? Why did he just seem to, it seemed intentional? And you're looking at me like it could have been, or
I asked the question, and I was worried about the whole idea of, could he have released the brake 4 wheels off in the grass? Could he have released the brake or got back on the throttle because he was upset about being pushed wide into the grass? And I hope they don't review his data because it's probably not going to look good.
Wait, who was it? This is the Porsche driver.
No, this is the
Acura driver.
Albuquerque got pushed off, and the weird thing,
and he was pushed off by.
Did you not see this, Johnny?
I haven't seen it. I read about it. I haven't seen
maybe
it.
I haven't lined it up.
He's going around the turn. He tries to avoid the collision by cutting through.
This is the Porsche?
No, the Acura.
The Acura, okay.
And it looks like he has plenty of time to stop, but it also appears that he just keeps going right into the Porsche and goes, fuck it, if I'm out, this guy's out too.
Right. Well, that happens.
And so you're saying they could review that data?
Let me put it this way. I know people who have had their license revoked for less, and I don't know if there will be any review of the aftermath of the contact that led to the big contact, but he was on the flash button in the grass. And usually when you're on the flash button, you're on the racetrack in the race. So I think there was definitely some heated emotion from the first bit of contact.
What's the flash button?
The high beam button that you would push on the steering wheel to warn competitors, slower cars that you're coming through. The lights that you see as they come down pit lane that warn the pit crews of cars in the pit lane. It was very strange because I'll reset the stage. I probably didn't do a great job. Porsche's leading, followed by an Acura. They go into turn 1, and they have 4 GT cars ahead of them, a big gaggle of GT cars that slow up the leading Porsche. The Acura now has a big run around the outside. There's no space for him there. So then he cuts all the way from driver's right to driver's left, trying to pass the Porsche, but the Porsche still held up by the GT cars. So as he comes from full right to full left, the Porsche then jinks left to go around the GT cars, makes contact.
So they're both going for the same spot.
Correct. And then, of course, the ramifications of that is the Acura is the odd man out, and he gets pushed onto the inside on the grass and then goes sliding through the grass and bowls straight through the leading Porsche. Takes
T-bone style.
But you can also argue that, like, you ain't stopping on grass. Like, slicks on grass if the grass is slightly wet.
take a look.
Yeah,
at the
I'll
clip.
look. I'm just
At first view, I thought the same. I thought there's no way he could stop it. But then it almost looked like it accelerated.
well, I'm not going to say anything. I didn't see it.
Potentially.
I mean, good for Cadillac is what I have to say. Good for Cadillac. Way to avoid the contact.
But I was happy to see this was going to be a fun bet for Le Mans. We have this ongoing bet between Cadillac.
Yeah,
and
$100.
Porsche. But it's exciting.
Yes.
I didn't know that Cadillac could be this competitive.
Well, I think last year they won Sebring, right? The DPI car, I think.
Now, am I right that Ray Hall Letterman came in second in that class?
Yes.
Their team with the BMW M Hybrid V8. That's good old Dave Letterman. That's a big win for him.
Good for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was racing.
BMWs are doing better than everyone predicted. It's kind of cool to see the BMWs doing so well.
Yeah, it looked like in Daytona that there was Acura had the measure of everybody, and Cadillac ran pretty well. But I think Porsche's been working hard, and certainly BMW has as well. It looked like Sebring's interesting because as the sun goes down, certain cars really come forward and other cars struggle. And it has to do with naturally aspirated versus turbo. It has to do with your setup. Oftentimes when I was driving at Sebring, I had a car that was really free in the hot sun. And then the sun would drop, and it's like the last 3-4 hours of the race is when the real sprint starts. And all of a sudden your car would just come alive. And it was always good for the 911.
Just because you're getting colder air in.
Colder air, thicker air, the balance, more downforce. Things change, and the tires react differently.
Wouldn't it be worse for the tires?
Not necessarily. It depends on the compound. It depends how the car is using the tire. Obviously, when you run a stiff platform and stiff springs, it puts a lot of heat into the tire, but it doesn't make that mechanical grip when the tire isn't up to pressure and up to temperature. So it's really the ebb and flow of full tanks. A lot of times your balance of full fuel tanks, as the fuel burns off, your balance will change. Sure. So you really do try to set up for the end of the race at Sebring, and that might mean that you're on the struggle bus for the first 8 hours of the race, but all you're really trying to do is back time to that final hour. When the car comes off the jacks, you know as the driver you got to go. And of course, it's pitch black. And Sebring is so wild because there's certain sections that are World War II aircraft strip, and it's old concrete. And then there's new sections that have been repaved. So you never really have a perfectly handling car. Everybody talks about the bumps. The bumps are a massive part of it. If you get a car that's compliant and is really good over the bumps, it might be crappy on the smooth high grip section. So there's a lot of compromise in that track and that race. I still think it's one of the toughest, most demanding races for the team, the driver, for the cars.
That's what I've always heard. I've never been to Sebring. I've always heard that. It's like that's the like Le Mans. Yeah. It's a long time, blah blah. But Sebring is just like it's so hard. It's interesting to hear why.
It's really tough. I mean, Audi used to test there for Le Mans. They figured if they could do 12 hours at Sebring, that was harder than 24 hours at Le Mans. And they would test on the Monday after the 12 hour. And I think they would do 24 hours. And they knew if they could complete 24 hours with their R10 or their R15 or whatever their super prototype of that era was, that they were looking really strong for Le Mans. And it proved to be the case.
Wow. So they would go right away.
Yeah, well, the grip on the track is always the best right after an endurance race.
Yeah, because
and they could book
everywhere.
The time. Yeah, and the weather's great in Florida. I mean, I've spent more weeks in Florida in the winter than anywhere in my life because it just seems like every amount of testing and racing seems to take place there because you get the year-round weather. And of course, in Europe, it's still probably pretty tough right now, depending on where. A lot of times we tested in Spain and Portugal at this time of the year, but yeah,
you get rain at Sebring during the race.
Occasionally, it's not as frequent as Daytona.
It's not Daytona or like Le Mans. Like no matter what, there will be 3 hours of rain in France. It just happens.
Yeah, right in the smack in the middle of June. It's wild.
Yeah.
Now,
no matter what. Yeah.
Porsche did well in one of the classes, right? That was
the FAF team won.
Yep, in GTD.
In GTD.
Yeah.
Which stands for Grand Touring
Daytona.
Daytona.
It's essentially GT. There's two GT classes.
Okay, and what cars were they racing, and how did they place?
They're in GTD. I'm trying to think who finished second, but there was some BMWs were up there in GTD.
No, but I mean, what is the Porsche model that?
It's the new 992 GT3 R.
The GT3 Rs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially starting with the GT3 RS street car as the shell. And then, of course, they can make a lot of changes to the bodywork, some of the suspension. But the base core of the engine and of the tub is actually a street car.
And they did well. They placed
Well, the
first.
FAF car was interesting because they wrecked in practice, and so they were written off, I think, by
Right.
a lot of people, and then they wound up winning, which
Wow.
is wild. Yeah,
Yeah, from last.
yeah.
Which car would you prefer to drive in a race like that?
It's tough. Actually, driving prototypes at Sebring was a great experience because actually the downforce helped on the bumps. You think about prototypes and they look so low to the ground and so stiff, and they are all of those things. But when you have that significant of amount of downforce, it really does stabilize the car, and it actually makes those abrupt bumps go by quicker. In the GT car, in fact, twice I've finished the race where one of the dampers was gone. Just the suspension and the shocks just give up at a certain point.
Right.
And then it's a real uncontrolled wild ride. And you just, those big bumps, they're not little high frequency bumps. They're big like jumps. And by the end of the day, when you're just soldiering through the heat, it's often so hot, even in March in Sebring, and your head's banging off the side of the seat. And it's a long day on the bumps.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So-
We've talked about this a little bit before, and last time we were talking about how there were no bathroom breaks, that you just, if you go, you go in the seat. What is your prep for an endurance race before? Like, it's a lot of, you want to be attentive, you want to be alert, you want to be strong. Like in the days leading up to that, do you go to bed early at 7 o'clock? Do you stay up later? What are you doing, and what kind of cycle are you trying to get into, if any?
It's a really good question, and it's a complex answer.
Well, you can answer it simply, like,
Yeah.
what do you like to eat?
Energy preservation. It's all about planning so that your mental and your physical energy recovers as quickly as possible between the stints, and that you don't wear yourself out before the start of the race, because there's all the pre-race activities, there's the days of practice and qualifying, and to your point, getting on a good sleep schedule, understanding when you're really going to need to perform, and that might mean sleeping late and waking up late so that you're kind of nocturnal. I remember oftentimes racing in Florida, and I just sort of stayed on California time because these races go so long into the night that you want to be sort of coming into that strong suit right at 10 o'clock at night.
So you arrive to the track how many days before the race?
Yeah, 3 or 4 days usually.
3 or 4 days. And then you're in a hotel. So you're losing sleep on that first night in the hotel.
Yes.
Nobody sleeps in a hotel on the first night.
Exactly.
But then it's just getting yourself on that cycle and thinking about only the race and probably eating healthily. Do you have any snacks that you prefer? Or, Pat Dempsey once was talking about how he chewed gum. It relaxed him behind the wheel. That Hurley Haywood had told him that.
Yeah, I tried that, and the gum melted in my mouth. I kid you not. It literally melted in my mouth. It
Florida
just
race?
disintegrated.
And then you can't spit it out because you got a full helmet on.
That old man hot breath. But,
Yeah.
no, I think I'm working with 2 young drivers right now that are in the Porsche ladder, a selected driver and a young driver in the Carrera Cup, Sabre Cook. And I talked to Kai Van Berlo before Daytona. He has the speed. I'm not there to teach him how to drive fast, but I am there to give him some wisdom and to talk to him about the 124-hour races that I've done and the places that I've learned efficiency when you're not in the car, so that you have more energy on the second day when you're sick of driving. No one in the team is asking for more laps once a 24-hour race starts.
Right.
The whole week leading up, everybody's complaining in the pits. How many laps have you had in the car? Oh, 5 laps, because you have multiple drivers and limited time. But let me tell you, the next morning when the engineer calls for you, you really don't want to get out of the motorhome because you're just fatigued, you're beat up. And so I talked to Kai and I just asked him, where are your multiple race suits and your underwear? Where is that? Well, it's in the truck, but you're sleeping in the motorhome. Let me tell you from experience that in the middle of the night at Daytona, when you need to put a dry set of Nomex on, you need it all in one place. What is your food on pit lane? In case you're delayed, there's yellow flags and you're 2 hours into the car later than you thought, and you've been sitting in a cold pit lane. I need to have food on the pit lane. All right, what digests easily? What could you shove down your throat and jump in the car 2 minutes later? And for me, it was always peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They worked when it was hot. They worked when it was cold.
Right.
Yeah,
Morning, night.
And it makes you happy, right?
A little bit of quick sugar.
Yeah.
And easy to digest. So I think you have to have that meal that you would eat at any point. And let me tell you, pasta and chicken, it tastes pretty bad after the 5th meal in a row.
Yeah.
I started to track what I ate and drank during a 24-hour race, just because you lose track of your meal times and your schedule. And 6, 7, 8 full meals in a 24-hour period. You know, that's what we're normally taking in. When you look at the calorie burn in a car and how much you have to intake to stay ahead of it, that really is where so much of the science of recovery, no matter how fit you are, how many times you go to the gym during the week, if you don't have your nutrition and your hydration dialed for the race, you're going to be operating on reserves. And as you know from playing tennis or driving, once you're in that red zone, you're not really coming back out of it for 6-8 hours.
Yeah, and you're making mistakes suddenly, and you wonder why that happened. What do you got?
I just want to go back just to the bumps for a second because like, you know, the GT3R, like the downforce that our street cars are making now, you know, the GT3 RS, it's got to be what prototypes were doing when you were racing, or even, you know, or more than, right? So like, what's it? Do you know, if you're talking to the current crop of GTD guys, like what's the downforce situation like in the current cars?
In the GT cars?
Yeah.
It's very, very high. You're spot on. I watched a CLK GTR video this morning. Somebody sent me online from 1999 at Le Mans.
Right.
Those cars were going, I think, 330 kilometers an hour, over 200 miles an hour on the straights. But in the corners, they looked no quicker than a modern GT car.
Right.
And I think the downforce levels that a GT3R or a Porsche RSR or any manufacturer's cars, I just talked on Jay Leno's show about the new GT3 RS does 1,800 pounds of collective downforce.
Wow.
And that's approaching Le Mans GTE numbers. And so
that's actually F1 numbers.
It's crazy.
F1 is
That
about
is
18.
nuts.
Because I remember, I just drove the Valkyrie, and I remember when they were there, I was there, they were like, the Valkyrie does 2,415 pounds of downforce on street tires. On track tires, it does 2 tons of downforce. And I'm like, what's an F1 car? And they're like, oh, it's about 1,800 pounds. So that's more than an F1 car.
I would assume an F1 car makes a lot more than that, but I think
they're
know.
limited though. Remember, you know, they made the
wings small.
the wings. They're very narrow now.
Yep.
They know how to make. I mean, like the Valkyrie track car makes 5,980 pounds of downforce. They know how to do it.
Right.
But you know, the formula is.
So Formula One's really limited to that number.
We can look,
Wow.
I think it's like 1,100. Or no, I think it's like 900 kilograms of downforce or something.
And 5,900 is what the Valkyrie could do in
The
high
track
downforce.
car does.
Oh,
does
the track car.
Yeah. No, the Valkyrie can do 4,000 pounds on the Cup 2R.
It's insane. And there was a lot of debate about that in you know, what the new GT3 RS does for a street car, and people say, well, you're never going to get to those speeds to make those downforce numbers, and
BS.
so what? But
BS.
taking these cars on the track, let me tell you, I was just out at Thermal doing the release of the GT3 RS and driving the current 992 GT3.
Is that this right here?
Exactly. Driving the new GT3 RS versus the GT3 992, it was a massive differential. I was driving ahead of the journalists. Jörg Bergmeister was in the other GT3, and when we jumped into the 3RS, we both came in laughing. Like, it's crazy how different that is on the same generation GT3. It's not just a big aesthetic.
I've seen that.
This shot drove me nuts. That's what that music was. If you
So
were just listening, Tribe Called Quest, as Patrick. Well, I don't even know what turn this is out at Thermal, but that shot is so cool. The way you're just that little slide.
Yeah, we were shooting.
held down so well.
We were shooting some B-roll with JF Munsal, and he talked about a lot of the drifts you see from different journalists on track and how that's set up and how those shots are created.
Right.
But how much speed could you roll through a corner on a normal line and get past the limit of grip on the exit? And so Jörg and I were having a little bit of fun smoking some tires for the camera for JF, so I threw that up on my Instagram.
You got to check it out. Go to Pat Long's Instagram and check out the shot we're talking about.
If memory serves, like a regular GT3 is like 270 pounds of downforce or something. It's not a lot. I mean, it's a lot.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But when 1,800 or something, whatever the GT3, that's insane for a street car.
Yeah, we went 3X.
Wild.
Why am I getting one of those?
I don't know.
Why would I do it? It's insane.
What color did you order?
We haven't talked about it yet.
I'll tell you off the
but Andy Pruny helped us with the design, and we were inspired by his car up in Monterey.
Very cool.
So we're excited.
I went on the configurator and looked at the PTS options, and I was overwhelmed.
It's
new colors, old colors. I was stuck in the greens. Some of the fun greens.
Me too. Eratium. and this is really nice. I was stuck on Etna Blue with gray wheels, and we went with something more traditional this time.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'm excited about the car. Do you think that the folks like me are going to be able to control these knobs on the steering wheel? Like that's going to make sense to me in Zuckerman as we're driving around yelling at people?
Hey, Spike.
Hey, knob
Hit
number
the
8.
DRS.
No. I think you'll find your home button. I think you'll know what you want in settings. And the fun part is that on the race setting, you can actually override a bunch of the different dampers and some of the differential and things like that. So you can actually go and knock all of the bump and rebound out of the dampers so that you can have a more plush ride. But of course, on the track, you're going to want that rigidity and control in the damper. The other fun thing is the differential. You can tune both the entry and the exit. So you negative and wind out or back off of the differential, or what they're calling the PTV, you have a more open, an easier rotating car on the way in. And then, of course, if you wind it up, you'll have a more stable rear, but maybe a little more understeer on entry. And then same on the exit, back it way off, and you've got, a much more open diff versus, full positive, and you can almost, getting it locked a lot more across the two rear wheels.
I got to play with that because I had the Cadillac, the CT5V Blackwing is the insane title of that car. But one of the displays you can put up is the ELSD, so it shows you the percentage of lock at all times. I was having so much fun just staring at it, but to be able to tune it would be awesome.
Yeah, and the party animals love E and LSD.
Yeah, ELSD, baby. What else do you need? It's the greatest name for a car part ever.
So you love this car, this GT3 RS?
I love it on the track. I'm an old soul on the street, so I'm more of a Turbo S guy.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that.
Or a Taycan, but
right.
Or
on the track, it's insane. But Johnny recently had a little sampling of the 4-cylinder life in Porsche.
My first 912.
Oh, you drove that car?
I drove his.
Yeah, that's a lovely car.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
just and I know your other car is much more special and all that, but I was just like, you said the best line ever. You're like, when the steering wheel's bigger than the wheels, you're in for a good time.
Like a bus.
Yeah. And
the experience.
I just, that 912, man, I've been...
Wow, another 912 convert.
It's annoying. It's annoying. I hate when people always tell you and then it's exactly what they say.
Yes. No, that's a good thing.
No,
that keeps you moving forward in life, to have something to get.
Yes.
If you don't have that, you might just decide to put yourself in a dumpster this afternoon and we'll never hear from you again.
I hope I don't decide that. But yeah, your 912 was absolutely...
Yeah, that car is
I mean,
lovely.
it's just exactly what an quote-unquote old car should be like. Mm-hmm.
I think they live up to their hype. I also wondered, how could a 911 with less power, a short wheelbase 911, an early 911 with less power, be more enjoyable? And it's just different.
Yeah, I don't know if it's more enjoyable than like it was a 66.
Yep.
So I've driven a 66 911. I don't know if it's more enjoyable, but it was just a different experience, and just there's an elegance and a loveliness. And whenever you start driving old bugs, I always find this too. Like they're much, I grew up, I'd look at them, I never drove them, and I just thought they were cheap garbage. And they made them as nice as they could. They really had a lot of pride in building the Beetles. And, the interiors were actually pretty good. They were just, coming out of the war, and it was just a nightmare. So yeah, I love the 912.
There are
totally sold.
Cars like that take you out of the speed game.
Yeah.
The second you start driving, you realize, I can't keep up with really anybody, but my sensation of speed is very fast. And the lack of having to keep up with everybody is relaxing. You start to relax, and then you're enjoying this drive, and the sensation of speed makes it feel like you're doing something.
Yeah.
And that adds up to that experience you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's so direct and tactile, and like, your RSR, or your RS mule car, for I don't know what you actually call it, but the mule car, which is like, it was a prototype for the 73 2.7 RS. I felt driving it, I was a little nervous because I know what it is, but also like you should really open it up and push on it to like get the best experience. But it was freezing cold, and you were like, the diff, I don't know if it's up to speed. You know what I mean? So I wasn't relaxed in it. Where the 912, totally in command.
Yes,
just
chill.
Loved it. I then sent a photo to Bill, and he thought I was him, and it was.
Yeah, I was
remember
winding
that.
Bill up because, of course, Bill, you called me with Jerry, Spike, and were asking me questions. Jerry was asking me questions about my 66 912, and then it came out that Bill was the one who was interested in the car. It wasn't Jerry, but
I'm not so sure about that, by the way. I think it was both of them.
Jerry, if you're listening, that's a nice one.
so
He's got quite a
we were
few.
winding Bill up. I sent him a direct message and a picture of Johnny, and I said, "I'm sorry, I had to let the car go to Johnny," and he was not taking my joke lightly.
No, I don't think he really understood it. That's Bill of the Malibu Kitchen, by the way, who is 912 in a 912 frenzy.
Yes, he is.
He's nodding right now, listening to the show, going, "Yes, I need a 912," and I'm sure someone
that's a
will.
really nice one.
send
And I like
us-
it's a Survivor. It was like that was, it just wasn't like overly restored or anything.
Yeah, I bought it from the original owner. He cried as I drove away.
Good.
He gave me the receipt. He got good money for the car. It was a car that he
It
had
was
lived
emotional.
with since '66.
No way.
It just had the full binder of every single
Yeah.
service it had ever
Yeah.
had. And it's something about driving these old cars when you're sort of holding on. The seats and the seatbelts aren't doing much. It's
Right.
very visceral and it's very humbling. You're
Yeah.
only going to go as fast as your physicality will allow you to go.
Yeah, yeah.
What year did you buy it?
About 2015.
Okay.
I always, when I deal with those cars, I always am conflicted about replacing the seat belts. On the one hand, safety. On the other hand, original seat belts.
And if it doesn't have a crash structure, man, seatbelts ain't gonna do nothing.
I've had them with like gnaws in the fabric and just kept them because they look good. I just thought, what does it matter?
It's funny. I remember the guy in my old neighborhood. He had a '66 Mura, and it was about 2015. And I'd always see it driving around. I'm like, I gotta talk to this guy, original owner. And he's just like, yeah, I'm selling it. I've reached that age. I've had it since '66, and I'm like, I can't believe you're selling it. And he's like, I bought it, whatever he bought it for, like $25,000, and he's selling it for, at the time, $890,000. Now it's a 1 point whatever car. But he's like, this way my kids, they'll have some money, and it's just wild.
I've never driven one, but it's one car that I love. And
Jay's
lust
got
for.
two.
Yeah, I sat in that one of his, and he digs them. The driving position was a little interesting. The steering wheel was a bit far for somebody of my height and stature, but
It's typical Italian position, right? Just short legs, giant long arms, 5'8".
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was stretching for the steering wheel. The legs weren't bad, but man, a work of art for sure. One of my favorite designs.
I got to ride in that thing. It was. I'm just gonna go drive it. I got to drive it.
Well, Patrick, thank you for coming in. This is exciting. Everybody is dying to go to Luftgekult. And if you need tickets, you need to go to luftgekult.com. The event is Saturday and Sunday, April 29th and April 30th on Mare Island.
That's right.
Mare Island. And it doesn't matter what kind of Porsche you have. We have something for everyone. And you're going to collect a lot of money. This is bigger than Woodstock. Look at him
Come out
smiling.
Sunday. If you own a Porsche, we want to see it. So head over to the website and we'll get you signed up.
Water stock.
And lots of merch. I'm wearing one of your hats from last year that I absolutely love. I hope you have a cool hat. Do you make these same hats, or are you
Yeah,
gonna
we'll have
new
something
ones?
very similar. We make a different piece for each event and kind of integrate the number into it. So I like that one. I never got one of those. I got to hit you up for
Don't
a
take
trade.
this one. This was the one that kept the sun out of my eyes.
Yeah, I wore a hat. That's why Ferris showed up.
And
Bald.
First and boys love your T-shirts. They wear them to school and they feel cool. So again, many congratulations for this huge Porsche Mecca event, and good luck on the next one. Johnny, anything to promote before we go?
No,
Nothing.
I can't think of anything. Go, maybe I'll put some stickers on Blip Shift. Go to Blip Shift, buy a Zuckerman head,
There you go.
and stick them on the cars at Luft. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do
And with a little luck,
There will be Zuckerman heads at Luft. We'll make sure that happens.
Really?
Well,
are
why
you
not?
going up? What do you mean? How are you going to make sure they're going to be there?
We'll put them on Blip Shift, and people can buy them, and they'll bring them with.
A special Luft edition Zuckerman
mean,
head
I need a
sticker?
couple. I heard Dixon had one on his helmet.
Yeah, well, I need podium.
I'm waiting for the invitation to the club.
I think he podiumed again.
He did?
Yeah, it's Sebring, right?
It's well known, the
yeah.
luck property of the Zuckerman head. That
if you want a podium.
Yes, if you want a podium, you put it on your head.
All right,
You're gonna win.
we'll think of a Luft something.
Carlos Alcaraz, you saw his racket. He won Indian Wells. He had the Zuckerman head right there,
Yeah.
right on the overgrip.
Yeah.
You take his hand up. There it was.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
it was.
yeah, yeah.
So All right, folks. We'll see you next week on Spike's Car Radio.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio, brought to you by Hangar 56. Listen to new episodes every Wednesday, and be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all, listen up. CarShield has a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that covers more parts than ever. Visit carshield.com/audio to find out how you could pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Get your free quote today at carshield.com/audio. That's carshield.com/audio.